Hey, it's Biddy Penny. Welcome to my channel. Today I have a very different video for you guys. For one, I will be trying out these beautiful OHUHU products that they reached out to me, wanted to collab. They sent me these new acrylic markers, which is brand new. They sent me a package of their alcohol markers as well because I had one of their original sets from like 4 years ago or something, and I was eager to try the newer casing and everything. I love that everything came with like a booklet. It came with swatch cards and like a protective sleeve. But today's video is not just like me trying out art supplies. It's not me teaching you any techniques or being a fabulous artist. Today is about the process. It's about the process when we use art as therapy, when we use art to calm our nervous system, to reconnect to self, the way that arts and crafts gives us more. It's about more than glue. It's about more than markers and paper. Art is so much more. So I also have a card challenge that I want to challenge everyone to. And I'm going to be talking about mental health today. So if that is something that you're uncomfortable with or is a trigger for you, then this might be a good video to skip. And I have 800 other videos on my channel that you could check out, or you can come see me another day, maybe tomorrow. All right, so let's just do this. They sent me this pad of mixed media paper. It's beautiful. It's lovely. I always love having a sketchbook. And then again, this is the little pamphlet that came with the paper pad. I'm going to tear into these acrylic markers. When they said, we'd love for you to test our acrylic markers, give us your honest feedback, and we can't wait to see what you do with them. I was like, oh my goodness. Well, I've been wanting acrylic markers because the set I have, I'm not crazy about. And I always tell y'all, I don't recommend them. And I kind of got tired of using them in videos because I couldn't recommend them. So I was excited that OHUHU reached out and that they wanted me to try their acrylic markers because I was ready to try a new set. I love that they sent swatch cards that were both black and white for the acrylic markers. And I'm not going to do a side-by-side comparison or really dog on the other brand. The other brand, there may be an art style where they're kind of perfect for someone. So someone could end up really loving the ones I don't like. It's just that when you're talking about art, there's so many different styles, there's so many different purposes to things that are opaque or transparent. And I was looking for, when I got my acrylic markers, I wanted something very opaque. I ended up with a set that's very transparent. So it doesn't give me what I want. And so I was really anxious to try these out and see, would these give me, is it another transparent set? Or is this a really opaque set? Because what I needed was opaque. So I didn't go to town in this video swatching everything out. This is not necessarily a deep dive. This is a crafter with a new product to try. And I want to put it to the test by using it on a project. So the first thing in the directions, I did read all the brochures, and they do suggest that when you're shaking it, you shake it back and forth and that you could hear kind of a clicking. And I noticed when I only shaked it a little, I couldn't hear the clicking so much as if when I shaked it more vigorously. I grabbed a scrap piece of paper, and you do have to prime the nibs. I love that they sent an extra pack of nibs, both for the fine point and the bullet point. I love that these acrylic markers have 2 nibs, and I like the barrel because the barrel is wider on the chisel end and more narrow on the bullet end. So I think by just picking it up and feeling of the marker, even if you weren't looking at them, you could feel the barrel and know which end is which, or look at it and know which end is which. I love the way the lids come off of these, and especially their alcohol markers. They're secure, but they're not a fight and a struggle to get them off. There are some brands of alcohol markers, the most popular, expensive one. I struggle with their caps all the time, and I have refused to buy any more Copic markers. I'm not buying their refills. I'm done with Copics. I thought that they were going to be the solution for me to enjoy alcohol markers, and they weren't. I did not feel like they were a good investment of my money. I didn't go crazy and buy the whole collection or anything like that. I bought maybe 50 colors. So I kept it real reasonable, and I'm so glad I did, because I do not enjoy using them. And it's so funny because in our hobby and craft of card making, it's like considered the holy grail. But that just goes to show you have to try products yourself. You have to, and not every product is right for everybody. So no alcohol marker is light safe. They're not archival. It's just the nature of the beast of being an alcohol marker. So there's no point for me to feel like I have to use, a really expensive, nice alcohol marker as they're touted, because none of them are archival. And so I was excited to try the alcohol markers from OHUHU again, because I've kind of given up on alcohol markers since I got my Copics and the issues I had with other brands. I've tried 3 other brands. So I'm not big on coloring, and that's why I'm saying this is not going to be that video where I can impress you with my coloring skills, because that's not it. This is more about reaching the people who are more like me, who maybe color on occasion. Maybe they just want to play. Maybe they're just getting started. Then I would encourage you to try these products. Or if you've tried the more expensive products and you've been disappointed, or you don't see, maybe you've tried a few, you're like me, you have a very narrow palette, these are worth a try. I've really, really enjoyed my session with these. So I grabbed some watercolor, because that's my favorite medium, and I just laid down some color, and I'm going to use this journal to start as a art journal. So yesterday, I walked outside because it was starting to rain, or the rain had just passed, and I walked out on my porch and I saw just a little bit of a rainbow. No arc, nothing major, just like a slice of a rainbow. And I came back inside and I was like, if anybody wants to see a rainbow, there's a little piece of one in the sky right now. And so Sparkle Heart came out with me. My hubby was cooking dinner. My son was busy doing something else. And so she came out with me, and then we went to the backyard, because we had been on the front porch, and we went on the backyard. We saw a little more of the rainbow, but not much. And then we just stood and admired these gorgeous clouds. They were pink with highlights of yellow around the edges, but they were also kind of dark. I mean, they were just magnificent, and we enjoyed the clouds way more than even the rainbow. And it's really symbolic of what the last week has been for our family. We've had some storms to weather, and you still look for the rainbow, and you look for the beauty even in the midst of a storm. So it was really just nice to stand out we just had our arms around each other and we were just oohing and awing over the beauty of nature, the simplicity of admiring the clouds. So I thought this morning when I woke up at 4:30 and went to my craft room, I really just needed some art therapy. And so I started here painting the sky that we saw yesterday. Obviously, not an amazing artistic endeavor, and that's not what I was going for. I was doing a warm up. I haven't crafted in 5 days or so. And so this was more of like a warm up. This was me not trying to come up with a project. I'm not trying to do anything other than soothe my soul, record a memory, and play with these new products. And I thought, I'm going to be genuine with you guys about it, talk about it, and play. That's what I'm going to do. OHUHU, when they reached out to me, put no pressure on me to do anything spectacular, to say anything specific. They just said, we like your channel and we think you like these products. Would you like to, receive them and share them? Yes, I would. And so I just kind of ran with that. And there are so many fabulous artists on the platform of YouTube and Instagram and everywhere. And who can really draw and color and do these things. But I think they knew what they were getting when they reached out to me, and that's not what they were looking for. They were looking for someone to give an honest, genuine experience, a crafter, to play with these products. And I have to tell you, I kind of lost myself in it. I ended up playing for like an hour and a half. I had so much fun. The acrylic markers are so opaque. They were what I always wanted. I love them so much. So they have the bullet tip and the fine tip. And I journaled a little bit on this page about yesterday, about, admiring nature, not focusing on the storm, and being in the embrace of loved ones. What a beautiful thing, right? So what a great memory to record. And I just wanted to test them in a few different ways. Like, I use a lot of watercolor, so that's why I wanted to lay down a watercolor base. I first drew in that cloud with the alcohol markers, and they're very transparent, which is perfect. Alcohol markers should be transparent. That is perfect. And then I just decided to go over the alcohol markers with the acrylic markers, and then I journaled with the acrylic markers. I absolutely love these. I can't say enough good things about them. I did, in that hour and a half, I tested some things off camera. I wanted to compare them to the other set of acrylic markers that I had in my set. I wanted to make sure that I wasn't just really excited about having something new to play with, but that I was genuinely, testing them one next to the other and getting different results. And sure enough, I was. They are so opaque that I'm using this beautiful metallic, like rose colored marker right now, and I will be able to go over it with a very pale, light colored neon green acrylic marker, the one I'm picking up right now, because I decided I wanted the hearts to be neon green, and one of the hearts was rose colored. And as long as your acrylic paint that you laid down before is dry, then it covers so beautifully. Now, in the pamphlet that they sent, it does say if you're having an issue covering dark paper, you can lay down a layer of white acrylic marker and then do your other colors on top. But I just didn't have a problem with them at all going over other. I love the way that they went over themselves. Like how I had that little red heart right there and I went over the green and it's just amazing. So yeah, that's my little journaling page. The alcohol markers was the only thing that bled through this mixed media paper. I know OHUHU does also have a no bleed paper now. So if you do color a lot with acrylic markers, or sorry, alcohol markers, then you might want that paper because it doesn't bleed through. All right, in Happy Mail from a sweet, sweet friend, Megan, I did get this adorable stamp set. And I thought, well, a lot of times when we're talking about acrylic markers, we're making cards or something like that, and we're stamping out images and coloring them in. So I thought I should use it in that application as well, because I feel like that's something that most of my audience is going to be able to connect with. That's a process that you guys do, you're familiar with, and you can relate to. So that's what we're going to do now. I am, again, getting some basic coverage over my paper with this light blue wash of watercolor, and then I'm going to mix up a green and put some green down. And I will tell you, at no point in this was I hoping to impress you with my art skills. And I think that that's important for crafters sometimes. I think sometimes that we can see what others can do with, oh, look at my new acrylic markers or alcohol markers, and then they do this amazing piece of artwork. And it may be so intimidating that you just decide, well, I can't do that, so I'm not going to play with my alcohol markers today. I've been there. I can relate. So don't feel like that's what this session's about. This session is about someone who just wants to pick up a marker and color. I'm not worried about doing a tri-blend. I'm not worried about light and shadow. I'm not worried about any of that. I put a simple wash of color down on my paper and now I'm stamping. And I'm not even stamping in the right ink because I haven't used my alcohol markers in so long. I wasn't even thinking at the time to use a different ink. So I'm using my VersaFine Onyx black ink, which I think y'all see me use like 90% of the time here on my channel because I don't use alcohol markers very often. And it's not for alcohol markers. It is for like water media. So like watercolor and maybe a water-based marker like Tombow or something like that. Tombow. Okay. Or Zigs, the Zig markers. Any kind of water-based marker. Anyways, using the incorrect ink, I had to be careful about coloring these in because I didn't want to run my new markers right out of the gate. And I didn't want to smear the lines and all of that. It was funny. I noticed it as soon as I started coloring this first flower. I was like, oh, whoopsie, because what will happen if you do use VersaFine and alcohol markers is it'll smear, the ink will smear. It'll smear onto the tip of your marker and all over your project. They're not friends. But I just colored carefully and went for it. And I'm not, again, trying to do a lot of blending. I did a light purple and a dark purple. In fact, I'm not even really sharing colors with you guys here in this video because that's just not the approach that I took today. I don't know what colors I used. I just grabbed colors and I colored like a child. So let's talk about that real quick as you watch me color like a child on this page. Well, school's just starting back, and it's become abundantly clear to me this year that school is not always exciting and is not always a positive place or a comfortable transition for children, whether they're leaving their mom for the first time and going into preschool or kindergarten, or whether they've moved and they're having to start a new school, or they're starting a new campus because they've aged out of their old campus. Maybe they've been out of school a while and are having to come back for the first time for health reasons or other reasons. There's a lot of reasons why children may struggle finding their place among their peers and in the school system. So, my friends Tracy and Bill over at Mindless Crafting recently did a card campaign for bus drivers in their school district, which was really sweet. I didn't get on the bandwagon and participate, but I love that they're always doing a card campaign. I would love to take a card campaign on, but I'm about to launch my business and I'm about to launch my website, and I know it's not the time. I need more time for my children as they get used to their new schools. But I wanted to start a card challenge, and I want to challenge you to make some encouragement cards to give to your local school. There has got to be an elementary school, a middle school, a high school, a preschool. There has to be some kind of school in your community. And I guarantee you, if you have a school in your community, then there are children there that are struggling to feel comfortable, included, and managing the stress of it all. So we have, if you're lucky, a great campus with great counselors who are helping these children through their day. And I want to encourage you to make some cards to drop off in the office. You don't have to know anyone on the campus. You don't have to have kids in the school. If you're 75, you can participate. If you have grandchildren, great. If you don't, that's fine too. It's not about us knowing the children. It's about us understanding that there's a need. And there's always more. That's what I love about card making, is that it's more purposeful than just paper and glue. There's so much to card making, and we have an opportunity to touch the hearts of others. So I'm presenting this challenge to you. If you're watching and listening, then this is meant for you. You don't have to make 150 cards. You don't have to make 50 cards. Maybe I will challenge you to maybe make 20, 15, 10 to 20. Make some cards. You could call ahead and let them know, I'm bringing in some cards for donation to encourage children, to cheer up children. Maybe you do that. Or maybe you just show up, bring your ID. It's not easy getting into the schools these days. You would need to bring your ID and explain that you have something to drop off to the school counselor, and drop off some cards to the school counselors. Don't write inside of them. Don't use glitter. I know it can be fabulous, but don't put it on your cards. Don't put anything religious. We have to keep church and state separate unless you're giving it to a specific private school. You know your situation better than I do, but for the general public, I would say, of course, nothing political, nothing religious, and no glitter. General rules. Glitter can be an irritant to people's lungs. So if there's any children with asthma or breathing conditions and they get one of those cards, people don't realize that, but that's why you can't send glitter to hospitals, because it can really bother some people with breathing conditions. Okay. So take those things into account. You don't need to write your name. Allow the counselor to fill these cards out based knowing what the children need. I would encourage you to make some for boys, for girls, for whatever. Just make some cards. So the 2 cards I'm making here today are going to be my first 2 cards. And I'm going to make a stack of cards for my daughter's school. And I'm going to make a stack of cards for my son's school. And I'm going to give them to the counselors. I could be mistaken, and I didn't look this up in advance, but I think September is suicide prevention and like awareness month. I think it's September. Doesn't really matter. But people need encouragement, and especially all of our littles, whether they're in kindergarten or 12th grade, they all need a bit of encouragement. Some of them are having a really hard time. So I want to challenge our card making community to come into action and drop some cards off at your school, in your neighborhood, in your town, and let's lift the spirits of these little guys. I think as adults, when we look back on our elementary years, our middle school years, our high school years, it's easy to a lot of times forget any of the hardships that we have, and we just feel nostalgic and we remember the good times, and that's great. That's the best way, right? But I'm being reminded that there's a lot of hard times in there too. So join me, please. Tag me on Instagram if you're on Instagram with your cards. I would love, love, love to see them. You can leave me a comment on any video anytime and say, hey, I dropped off 10 cards today. I just want to hear back from you guys. I don't have any way of following this challenge. There's no hashtag. It's not really about that. I want to plant a seed in your heart. It's been planted in mine, and I will be back with more inspiration showing you how my progress is going as far as doing this. So my marker collection that I got was I believe it's the Honolulu 2 and I'll have it all linked down below. But these are all the reds that came in it. And I will tell you that their lid color to the marker color has improved since they first started making markers. That was kind of one of the things I struggled with my first set of OHUHUs years ago. Again, when they first started making them, the barrel has changed and everything. The nibs have changed. Everything has changed since my first set. These do match better, but you will succeed and you will be happier if you swatch them out. With the acrylic markers, I don't think you really need to swatch them. The lids match the acrylic paint and it's pretty true to color. But with alcohol markers, they are transparent, and I do recommend you swatch them. I think you'll be happier. And you'll be able to find colors that you like better together. Like I was going by the lids for this flower, and I realized that was not going to work. That when I swatched one out, which luckily I did kind of swatch it, and I was like, oh wait, no, that's not the right color. Let me try a different one right here. I was like, okay, let me use this one. So in this one, in these two flowers, I am using 3 different colors, but I'm not trying to blend them. I do think these would blend beautifully, because they do so they don't spread out past my lines, but they do just kind of absorb into one another a little bit and soften. The edges soften quite a bit with these markers. So then I grabbed my acrylic marker and colored in the centers. But let me tell you, I'm not done coloring these images. I am not done playing with these images to create my cards. And after I get these fussy cut out, this is when the fun really begins for me as far as using the acrylic markers and why I always wanted some. So I'm going to end up playing and coloring these flowers even more with the acrylic markers on top of the alcohol markers. But that's going to come a little later. So once I got these fussy cut out, I really felt like these little critters were probably supposed to be holding flowers because of their arms, but it just didn't look right to me. I don't know. So I just cover them up. their awkward little arms just get covered up by flowers, and this maybe would not be the choice that you would make if you were making these cards. But again, I wasn't allowing myself to feel any kind of stress in any kind of way in this session. This was strictly for play. So I just covered their little arms with the flowers. I went into my stash. I grabbed a couple of sentiments that I thought were kind of perfect for these cards. And then I got some of these polymer, what are they? They're like, it's on the tip of my tongue, but the polymer clay flower sequins, I love these. And I thought, I'm just going to put sequins and like rhinestones and these little clay flowers all over and just make it as cheerful as possible. And so my quote, or not my quotes, but my sentiments, I kind of stacked them differently just based on the card design. Like the card on the right, I put the longest sentiment on top, the shorter sentiment on bottom, reverse on the card on the left. And luckily, I think they read fine either way. And then, yeah, I just sprinkled a little happiness all over the card. Now, I do wish that I had waited on the sequins. I need to make a mental note to myself after making these cards that the sequin should always be the last thing that I do. And that's because I ended up, matting my card base with more paper, and I wish that I had not used quite so many of my sequins and things in that condensed space, but that I had spread them across my entire card front. You'll see what I'm talking about in a minute. It's not a problem. This card is still going to bring a child some joy, but it was just like an artistic choice and note that I made to myself. So that little raccoon, now his ink did spread. I felt like it spread out, so I went in with this white acrylic marker and just kind of fixed it. I added some fine lines, and this is where I start coloring on top of my stamped and colored images with the acrylic markers. And this is why I always wanted a set, a set that was not transparent. So I just go to town having fun, adding little details. This is the white marker that I'm using here now, but then I'm going to come back and add even other colors and more things. So just hold tight with me here as I'm adding detail. I didn't worry about doing some kind of super awesome coloring job with my markers. I just had fun playing and coloring images. And I added a little white to the eyes and just all around, just little white details here and there after I had kind of fixed the raccoon's face. And then I added little pink cheeks, and then I thought, well, let me bring some more yellow into this image. So I tapped on and made little dotted yellow details around the center of that flower. And well, that was just so much fun. I couldn't stop there. I tried pink on this one, but I'll end up covering that up. Again, the beauty of these markers is if you let that acrylic paint that's in that marker dry, you can go over it with any color. You could go over black with white. It's not a problem. And so I love this bright green, this neon. So the acrylic markers have like just regular colors. Then they have some neutrals. They have metallics and neon. You get 30 different colors in the acrylic set. And I thought that was a really good balance. What I tested out on camera for you today was the white, the neon, and the metallic. And then I used one regular color because I did want to try each of the different types of color to see how they did. And they all did amazing. They were all great. So now I decide, okay, I'm going to go back and add some yellow centers around these purple flowers. And I love the way they came out. I know it's so subtle, but it's subtle details sometimes. It's the little details that really matter in the things that we make. It rewards the looking to have those little details. So I ended up, of course, going a little bit crazy and adding them everywhere and adding more yellow because you can never go wrong with yellow. And then I decided I want some lace too. So I'm using some scraps that I had used to make an accordion mini album with you guys a week or two ago. And these are the scraps I had left over. So I ended up using those all like cattywampus across the back of my 5x7 card base. I don't know the measurements because, again, these are scraps, but it doesn't really matter what the measurements are. I don't know the measurements of anything. When I started out, again, making these things, I wasn't worried about making a project. I was losing myself in just the process of coloring and playing and having fun in my craft room. I really wasn't worried about end results or teaching anything or any of that. So I just didn't worry myself with measurements. And, I hope that's okay with you. So I did add this little slit here in the fold of the card base so that I could bring in some ribbon, and I'm going to tie a ribbon bow at the top of these cards. I love attaching my ribbon like this because it adds a really cool element and detail to the inside of the card. And I just love how this kind of finishes off the top of the card, and I feel like it brings everything together. Having that little element of lace, and it just feels extra special and fun. And again, I love the way it looks on the inside as well. So I wanted to just show you one. This isn't to really dog these other acrylic markers. They're just different. But this is my other acrylic marker versus the OHUHU. And I tried to grab similar colors, and you can just tell on this black paper, the one on the far left was the one that was dry, but what a difference. And that's what I mean between the difference of opaque and transparent, is that the other is very transparent. So here are my two cards that are going to start the collection that I will drop off at the campuses in my town. And I hope you will join me. Whether you make 5, 10, or 150 cards. I don't want to discourage you in the number that you make, but I also don't want you to feel pressured by it. But I hope you will make some encouragement cards for children who are going back to school and need a little pick-me-up. Thank you for spending so much of your time here with me today. I hope you enjoyed the way that I used these new products. I am overjoyed to have them in my collection, and thank you, OHUHU, for the opportunity. Bye.